Logistics. Going up. Means it's recording. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Sustainiacs. I am Michael Vincent, always the Sustainiac. I found another one, and there's a bunch of them out there, but this one's name, like you're just a thing. That David Goodman. Sorry about that. And yeah, we spoke once, and we're already good friends because hey, we're both fighting the good fight, and you're fighting the good fight. You are, if you didn't know it, Edenark, right? Are you founder and CEO, Edenark?
I am. 28 years
And
now.
28 years Edenark's been
We're
around.
28 years young. Yep.
All right. Well, that's fantastic, dude. So let's talk about it, dude. What are you doing at Edenark? What's going on?
Well, we have we have two companies, of which Edenark is one.
Oh,
Edenark has a few verticals, but our main business is corporate environmental sustainability. We have the top sustainability certification program in the world for small to mid-sized businesses.
and that's Edenark's business.
That's Edenark's business, yes.
Okay, but you said you have two different companies.
We have a different company that provides wellness services, and that dovetails into one of the key components of what makes a good sustainability program. We believe that sustainability
Oh, okay.
starts and ends with people first, not LEDs and solar panels. You got to have people be excited about it, which means you got to have people feel good. I mean, if I've got a cold, I pull the covers over my head and I don't want to be bothered. But if I feel good and I feel happy, I'm going to be out there trying to help other people. I'm going to be out there talking to other people, being social. And so if you can help people become happier, healthier, and more productive, i.e. the wellness side of our business, then they're more apt to be more interested in doing something for the planet and each other.
So, okay, so let's just explore that for a second. I got a host of questions, a billion questions, but we're already down a rabbit hole already, right? Because I love getting into the philosophy behind it because there's so many misconceptions and there's so many people that throw up this negative barrier right away. As soon as you talk about sustainability, they're like, scam, there's no climate change, no blah, 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 all this kind of crap, right? It's just a money grab or whatever it happens to be. People throw up this stuff all the time. So let's just talk about that for a second. So is that a better world starts with me? Is that what that is?
So the second corporation, Bixby, has a Better World Starts With Me and Gym for the Brain, and it has our line of supplements called Best You Can Be. So that entire
gotcha.
business is a wellness business.
Gotcha. Okay, so when we talk about being in the right frame of mind, is it? The right frame of mind, the positive attitude, the feeling better, like not being sick and being ready to go, all those things, obviously productivity wise, you got to feel good about yourself and about what you're doing and believe in what you're doing and feel good to do it, right? When it comes to sustainability, I suspect that you take that a little bit further. You have to believe in the sustainability, or are you talking about being more virtuous or conscious about your capitalistic endeavors?
So let's move it from me to a company. So
Okay.
Edenark Group certifies businesses. The Edenark Group ISO 14001 certifies a business. And so the wellness businesses that we were talking about, Better World Starts With Me, Gym for the Brain, Best You Can Be, those are for those businesses, the employees in those businesses that Edenark is helping. So yes, in individual, we could talk about that, but there's these services, although these services are focused on individuals, obviously, they help a company with its people and helping the company's people not only be happier, but they're going to have less sick days. They're going to be more. They're going to be in a more positive frame of mind when they come and work. They're going to not have as many errors. Their workers' comp is going to go down. Their employee interaction with each other is going to go up. All those things that make a company more enjoyable to be at is part of that side of the business.
Gotcha. So when you come in as Edenark, You can come in as doing the certification stuff, which we're going to get into, and all that kind of thing. But you can also come in addition to, or are they mutually exclusive? Do you have to come in with the positivity as well from the other thing, or can I pick one or two or
You
the other?
you can be either or both.
Gotcha,
A
gotcha.
company, we have companies that start with the certification and then just
Uh-huh.
stay with the certification. We have people that start with the sustainability certification and then also add the wellness, and vice versa. You can choose to just do one, you can choose to do both, whatever you wish.
And these are small to medium enterprises, business enterprises.
That is correct. We have clients that are over $1 billion in size,
Uh-huh.
but our focus, our target is what we define, what the U.S. government defines as an SME, which is from pre-revenue to $1 billion. In Europe, where we also operate, it's a $500 million in size. That's what an
Gotcha.
SME stands for over there.
Okay,
But
so you're in
but
Europe and North America.
no, we're global, but
Oh,
but
okay.
but
Okay.
in terms of the definition of an SME in the United States, that's up to $1 billion. In Europe and Asia, it's up to $500 million. And we
Okay.
and we say that we target SMEs, even though some of our clients are bigger than that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, very cool, very cool. So let's dig into this, right? Edenark, and let's talk about the certification, right?
Okay,
The
all right.
certifications, a lot of that. Let's get into that because that's where people begin to say, "Aha! See, certification. There's
Mhm.
money." Right? All you want is money to certify, and then we'll move on. It. That's where people start the scam type of thing, right? We know that's not true. So, what is the certification? Why? What is the definition? Let's define how you're certifying this stuff.
Well, let's start with the question of, when is a certification even needed? Okay, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if an organization just wants to help the planet, and they're not going to go out and talk about it, they want to do some green things inside their walls, they want to do it to benefit the environment, or maybe to lower their costs. Fantastic, wonderful. That's what we all should be doing. You don't need a
Mhm.
certification for that. Do it. Go, help the planet, help your organization, and call it a day. Next on the list is, let's say you choose to do a green project, like you're going to put solar on the roof, and that solar helped you lower your energy bill by, let's say, 10%.
Yeah.
And you wanted to say, hey, we put solar on the roof and it lowered our energy bill by 10%. You don't need a certification for that. You can say we put solar on the roof and it lowered our energy bill by 10%. You should probably have a third party validate that 10, just so that you're covered in terms of the fact that you can prove that that
Yeah,
part of
because
the
somebody's going
claim.
to come around and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
David, you just said that so that people like you more and you sell more, and it's not really true greenwashing, slap a lawsuit on your crap."
But
Right.
but it
Yeah.
but you can make that claim because it is a factual claim. You put solar on the roof, and it saved you money.
Right.
End of day. However, if your company starts to want to talk about being a green company, environmental company, an eco-friendly company, a sustainable company, in effect, using those words for brand slash revenue benefit, that's when you need to be certified and third party verified. There's no difference from that than getting your college degree. I can't say that I've got a college degree unless I went to a college and went through a curriculum, and then a different group, not the teachers, but a different group, the administrative side of that university, determined if I met the curriculum, the core requirements to be given that degree. Same here. If you're going to say we're a sustainable company, that sustainable claim needs to be tied to some kind of a standard. You're sustainable, you're a certified sustainable company under a such and such standard. So the minute you start going for revenue gains, and you were saying earlier about oh, that's where the money comes in. Actually, yeah, that's where the company's trying to take advantage of a claim to make more money, and that's when you got to be tied to a standard, and that's when you've got to have some third party validate that you did the things that the standard required.
So is it only really to protect me if I make claims in like a marketing capacity, as you're implying, right? As a branding type of thing, or a promotional type of thing for people to go, hey, look, I need to do business with these guys because they're great. Is that the only benefit, just to keep you away from those lawsuits,
No.
or what else is there?
Let's say that you as an organization really wanted to do an environmental program the right way. You wanted to
Yeah.
follow the most up-to-date, knowledge-based program that's out there. Well, you probably don't have that depth of knowledge. That's not what your company does. Your company's over
Right.
doing something else. So you would want to align yourself to follow a global sustainability standard, get certified under that, so that you know that you're following things that are considered to be the things you should be following as part of that pursuit. Okay, so that's one thing. Then, of course, you've got the government regulations that we can talk about in a little bit, and then you've got client demand and consumer demand. So you can do it just for yourself. You can do it to make sure that you're meeting certain regulations, and you can do it for the marketplace.
Gotcha. So it is. Where is this? Where's the demand for this coming from? Is this, in other words, when you look at this certification, right? And I'm assuming there's more than just Edenark that does the certification.
Sure,
Am I
sure.
right? I mean, there's
Of course.
competition there, right?
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
So who sets the standard for that certification, or is it based on what I'm looking for, right? Like, say I don't do anything internationally, I'm really just looking to um, take advantage of the new demands from the consumers, right? And studies will show you that most consumers will say, yeah, I want sustainable goods, and I'd pay more, et cetera. But when it comes down to it, they don't believe it, so they don't do it anyway. Right? You've got to really prove it to them, because
Yeah.
the BS meters, so to speak, are really sensitive these days. Right?
70% of consumers disbelieve a company that makes any kind of green or sustainable or environmental claims and doesn't have a certification with a standard and third party verification. And that 70% goes to 90%. 90% of the under 40 consumer
Wow.
disbelieves a company's green claims if not attached to a sustainability standard with third party validation.
Yeah, see, I'm a baby boomer and I don't believe anything. And that's, growing up through detente and all that other kind of stuff, I'm going to guess you did the same thing, right? So you distrust anybody who's got a title, pretty much. Right? And it's even worse now, right? I mean, the BS meters and the distrust is getting worse and worse and worse because of these
Because
right?
because you, as you said earlier, consumers are demanding this, and companies
Yeah,
know that, and so companies, they want to take advantage of it, they want to make more
sure.
money, so they're saying, yeah, sure, yeah, we're green, and in some cases the company has done a lot of stuff internally the right way, but at the end of the day, if they are quote unquote self-certifying, you know, looking at their own test scores and making corrections as they go, they're simply not going to meet the bar, both from the consumer and from government regulations and from corporate clients. I mean, ultimately, as the world has gotten wiser and wiser to greenwashing, we have started to put the put the barricades up around these claims and force certification and verification.
Yeah, but so but what if you're an honest company, right? And you understand. Let's just say you have the bandwidth, and certainly you can go out there if you have the, the intelligence bandwidth, et cetera, to
Mhm.
go out and have internal people understand these regulations and do it, right? Is there an advantage to having a third party over self certification, for instance?
100%. Self-certification is greenwashing.
Well, not necessarily. Not if you're actually hitting those standards, right?
When you say you're hitting those standards,
Yeah,
you're saying that you're hitting those standards.
that's right. And I have the data because I've
And
I've I've
and
doing
and,
the
and
studies myself.
okay, and what standard are you hitting?
Yeah, the same standards that a third party would be doing, right? I mean, just because Edenark says this is a standard, that doesn't prove it's not greenwashing. That's just your standard. But what is the standard for green? Is it's proving that that what your claims are true, right? So if I say like, hey, I'm I've reduced I'm carbon neutral, right? If I can prove that, what's the advantage of having somebody else prove it if I can prove it?
Well, you moved from sustainability to carbon neutrality.
Well, that's the
So
same thing. I mean, that's a
no, it's not the same
sustainable
thing.
goal. That's a
It's
sustainable
not.
goal,
It's a goal. It's a project goal.
right?
But back to sustainability. Let's say, to your point or to your question, a company can do projects, as we were talking about before. A
Yeah.
company can do a project, and a project could be, we're going to download a free carbon calculator, and we're gonna run all the numbers, and we're going to enter it in, and we're going to look at the results. And if there's a miss, we're going to go out and buy some carbon offsets, and we're going to self certify that we're carbon neutral.
Hmm.
Well, they should not make that claim without a third party validating that claim.
Well, I'm just saying, what is the advantage of that? I mean, if they're both true, what's the advantage of having the third party say that it's true as well?
Because we don't know if it's true if you're self-certifying. How can you prove that what you're saying is true without somebody validating that what you're saying is true?
Well, because I have the data. Here's the solar panels on my roof. I'm generating the electricity. You can have electricians come in. You can measure that. Hey, at 50% of my energy now, I'm making myself. So therefore, I can make those claims. I'm more sustainable. I'm more green. Whatever the claim is.
You're
right?
now mixing a whole bunch of different topics. What you just said about a project, putting solar on the roof, we touched on that already. If you put solar on the roof and you save 10%, and you wanted to say, I put solar on the roof and I saved 10%, you can make that claim. You don't need to have a certification. Absolutely. Do it.
Okay, so now my products are more green than somebody else's because they're built with.
But now you're moving into a phraseology where you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I want to use that as a marketing to position my product as my product's greener than yours, or
and the minute you start using those phrases, environmental, sustainable, green, eco, the minute you do that, those words have to be tied to something. They can't be just, I can't tomorrow morning say I'm an astronaut because I read a bunch of books. Seriously.
You're 100% right. Because nobody's going to hire you as an astronaut.
So this company that has decided on its own, inside its four walls, what it determines as being sustainable or not, it doesn't have credibility for that claim. You go and you align yourself with a global standard that the world has already vetted and accepted as legitimate. That standard, just like that college has a curriculum, and the world has vetted that curriculum and is comfortable that when that university gives you a BS in accounting, that
Hmm.
you met a standard of care and performance that is consistent with what the world believes is necessary for that
Yeah,
degree.
but okay, but that's what I'm asking. Like in the U.S., you have to be accredited, right? And there's a specific way to do that for a university. You have to be accredited, right?
Okay.
Otherwise, the school can just say, "Hey, we're a school,"
Right. Right. Mhm.
and our agrees. You can't do that, right? But that's what I'm saying. When it comes to certification for sustainability, and look, I'm saying that my stuff is greener than yours because, or my stuff is green because the power that I use, I'm
Because I
generating
did it
myself.
myself. Mhm.
Yeah, but what if I'm meeting the standard?
But you just said I'm meeting the standard. The
Exactly.
standard has to be a standard.
No, I get that.
Basically,
What
what
I'm
you're
saying is,
saying.
where is the standard coming from? Who is making that standard? Is it just Edenark, or is this the
No,
standard
no.
that you are going against in doing this? Because why can't I just do that myself?
Okay.
If there's a standard out there, why can't I just go, look, I meet all these standards. Here's all the proof. I've got my internal lawyers and everybody else who says yes. And I had my engineers and everybody say, we're meeting these standards. And here's all the data and the proof. It's the same proof that you would get and say this. Why do I need a third party to do that? What's the advantage of having a third party say that instead of me just say that? With all this exact same data and all of the proof and all of the certifications, just all signed by people internal in my company. What's the advantage?
Market credibility, market acceptance. Um, if you self-certify,
Yeah.
okay, again, you're throwing a bunch of different phrases out there. So let's start defining some things.
Okay.
We use the ISO 14001 standard.
Okay.
That is the world's largest sustainability standard. The governments of the world participated in input, and the International Standardization Organization, the largest creator of standards in the world, created that standard. It's the
Yeah.
biggest, most respected standard in the world for for
Hmm.
sustainability. Okay? So I'm an ISO 14001 lead auditor. I
Okay.
have a
So
choice.
you've been trained in it, and you've been
Yes, yes.
okay. Gotcha.
But I can't grade my own test. I can be your advisor, and I can work with you and help you go through the process. Then once
Okay.
you and I create the application, we hand it off to someone else like me, another ISO 14001 lead
Right.
auditor,
Right.
who
Right. Right.
then
Right.
audits and validates. He's a third party. He valid or she a third party and
Right.
validates that what we did meets the standard. Third party
Gotcha.
validation.
So
But
now
the
you've got an
standard,
expert. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
the
I'm sorry.
standard is the ISO 14001, globally accepted, globally recognized. And so when that company says, I'm an environmentally certified sustainable company, the additional language is under the Edenark Group ISO 14001. So
Gotcha.
they're certified under a global standard, and they're certified with us helping them, and then third party validating all the work to ensure the integrity of the standard and protect the credibility of the client company.
Gotcha. So, excellent. I'm glad I pushed because that's the answer I was looking for. Is where? How does that validation come? And that makes a lot of sense. So you guys are certified, so you could actually validate somebody else's
Yeah,
as well,
yeah.
right?
I play the
You
role of
could be that third
absolute.
party.
I'm the auditor
Gotcha.
for other people. They're the auditors for me. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a
So,
lot like PQM and things that started in the 80s and 90s where you're trying to get to the Malcolm Baldrige Award and so on and so forth, et cetera, because you had people who were trained on it inside the
mhm,
company, and then you tried it and you got everything set up. But then you had a a
Separate group.
a
Separate
separate
group.
group that was
Yep.
helping you do that, and they would submit it, and then third parties would validate all that stuff, and then you'd
Yeah,
come back. And
because
that's fantastic.
obviously, if
Yeah,
I'm your advisor and
yeah.
you're paying me money and I want to keep you happy, and you say, hey, I'm ready to write you the check, just sign off. There's a risk there. So we need a third party to make sure that you and I are doing everything by the book, by the standard.
So is that, let me ask you, so is that designed that way in order to, like, God forbid, but it happens every day, it's probably happening right now, that somebody can test it anyways in law, and there's a removal from having a stake in that company and saying that they were certified? Because if it was just you, the company, I paid you to do that, and therefore it's, is it more believable or more legitimate if a third party then says yes, the work that he did is right, and they weren't monetarily compensated for that, or is that part of it? Or
100%, 100%. And like for
yeah,
instance, Canada now has Law C-59,
okay,
and that requires a company making claims to have certification and third party verification. Because again, you want to keep those two separate so that whoever you're working, whether the company self certifies or the company hires an advisor and helps them through the process, you still need a third party to come in and validate that everything that they claim they did, they really did. Because there are many programs out there where if you send them the check, they send you the piece of paper. And
right,
they're just looking for that check. And that brings us back to one of the first points that you made, and that is, there's people saying that these programs aren't legitimate. Everybody's
right,
looking to make a buck.
yep,
And like in every industry, there is. So one of the things you need to do is you need to make sure that if you're going to spend the time and the money, that you do it the right way so that you end up obviously getting a good program and legitimate.
yep. Gotcha. Yeah, excellent. I'm glad we went down that, because that's where it all comes through, is the legitimacy of it, right? And that's where the trust factor comes in. And so it's really difficult to go down. Well, I don't know if it's all that difficult. You'd be the expert to tell me if it's difficult or not. But it's a road that you have to go down through, and there's expenses. There's a lot of companies that are out there that are not going to do it until they have to do it, right? And maybe not not a perfect analogy, but in the business I'm in, trying to do recycling and reclaiming materials that are previously extracted, and bringing them back in as raw materials for production again, right? There are certain industries where that is very, very enticing and valuable to them because of they're consumer facing, right? But the B2B less so, or B to community less so. Like, nobody cares if their drainage ditches that the county put in on the road have recycled material in those corrugated pipes, right? But you can advertise that this cup is sustainable, that a consumer is going to buy. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of companies that won't go down that path just because they don't have to yet, right? What are some of the advantages of doing it, even though you can still, participate in markets and commerce without those certifications?
So advantages.
Yeah,
First of all, it's the right thing to do, and
yeah.
we should be able to just stop right there.
I don't. By the way, I don't
Yeah,
disagree with that one
I
right
know.
there. I argue it all the time. Conscious or virtuous capitalism should be the number one thing anyway.
But let's talk numbers,
Yeah,
because that's
yeah.
what everybody wants to hear.
Right. Let's talk what a CFO wants to hear.
Certified sustainable companies are growing up to 20 times faster than their non-certified peers.
20x.
7 out of 10 consumers will move their loyalty to a business that is certified sustainable. If that consumer is confident that your claim is true, you've got 7 out of 10% chance that they will move their business from where they're currently purchasing to you.
You know what? You
25.
know what's interesting about that? Just on that point, real quick, is the importance of actually telling people that, right? Because people will move just because of the perception.
And then they'll find out the truth, and they'll find out they got scammed, and they'll be pissed, and they'll go back, and it'll hurt the industry.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. But
Right.
that's why you do it right the first time. Get in on
Right.
it the right side, so that you don't have to deal with all that later. And as consumers are getting smarter, and as governments are now squeezing down, doing it the wrong way is going to become painful and expensive. So,
It
next
is.
point,
Yeah.
25% of consumers have already moved their purchases, and the next 25 to 40% is in play right now. So let's say a third of all consumers right now are making decisions today on basically sustainability being a driver.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, 2024, about $500 million moved from non-sustainable to sustainable companies. This year, 2025, that number is going to be larger.
What? What? Okay. So, is this global or North
Yeah,
American
yeah.
based or
This is
what?
this
Global.
global. This global.
Okay. Okay.
75% of Gen X and Y view sustainability as more important than your brand name.
And that's 100%. Let me look. My brother-in-law comes over, found this new chocolate. It's amazing. And I look these people up, and they're sustainable. They're helping out the coast. They're one of the only ones that are. Their whole mission is they're fighting against the social injustices of the cocoa farmer and all this other kind of stuff. I'm not. These are the only brand that I'm ever going to buy. Their stuff is 100% sustainable. Blah blah blah. All this kind of stuff. And I'm the guy who's always like, okay, right, okay, let me do the research first. So I go do the research, right? Major brand that everybody knows. They're out of Pennsylvania. $500 million invested in the cocoa farmers, and they still can't say that there's no child labor or abuse or anything, but they're driving towards it. And it's impossible to weed it all out, but they're driving for it. There, to me, is greenwashing BS scam on that smaller company, because they're making statements that just aren't true. The other companies are fighting all this stuff. They're just doing a really crappy job of getting in front of the Gen X and Z and saying, look, we may be the legacy brand, but Joe Schmo's sustainable chocolate, they're not doing anything better than we are. Right?
So let's another one. To your point about what you did to check out the brand, sustainability is the number one thing that consumers are using to evaluate you when they go on the internet. When they go to check out something, they're gonna look for this. It's a key component. So if you were a certified sustainable company and you had that badge on your website, and the consumer, just like you do, would take the time to drill down to validate whether it's real or not,
Yeah.
you got a real good chance of winning them and keeping them.
Oh, you win
Um,
me for sure, because that's what I look for. First thing I do when you make a claim, I'm going to check it out, see if I can disprove it or if it's true or not.
so let's talk about bidding jobs. So you're a small company, and you're
Yeah.
bidding a job with a big company.
Yeah.
97% of large companies already have sustainability departments, and many of them, the majority of them, already have climate emission or carbon emission programs that they're trying to institute. And many of them, especially everyone that's made a net zero claim, has scope 3 requirements that they have to meet.
Yeah.
Scope 3, as you know, maybe the listeners don't, but scope 3 means that your vendors, your supply chain, has to be along for the ride with regard to your sustainability and carbon efforts. So,
Yeah.
if you are bidding a job and you are certified sustainable, and you let that big company know that you are, if your product is even in the ballpark compared to your competitors, you're going to win that job.
Yeah, and more and more and more, and a lot of my listeners do understand scope three, at least the definition, because 36 years in logistics, and you understand, like you just said, your supply chain is that's your scope three for many manufacturers, shippers, et cetera, right? And what people don't I think they're starting to understand is scope three doesn't mean it's any less important. All it is a definer of where those emissions are coming from. That's all it is. Doesn't make it less important in any way. It's not like murder 1, 2, and 3. That's not how scope 1, 2, and 3 works.
Well, back
right?
to you were talking about carbon neutrality before.
Yeah.
A company can become certified carbon neutral with scope 1 and scope 2. It's its own carbon within
Right.
its four walls and the energy that its electric provider provides. But the minute that company says we're going to become net zero, ding, 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 scope 3 comes into play, of which, to your point, 90% of most companies' scope 3 is their supply chain.
It's a supply chain. It is. And if you're an international business and you're in the United States and you want to continue doing business in other countries like, say, Europe, Canada, et cetera, those mandates aren't going away. And your scope 3 is going to be important.
Look at California. Bill SB 261, I believe. So SB 261 says that in California, the bigger companies have to have their scope 1 and 2 done in 26. Scope 3, not until 27. Well, 27 is a long way off, but 27 is on 26 data.
That's right. That's right.
So
that's a great point.
We're talking 9 months from today. Yeah. Those vendors are going to have to be in line for all those. California is the 5th largest economy in the world. And all the companies that are doing business in California, scope 3 is going to kick in January 1 of this coming year.
Yeah, that's that's an excellent point. So, okay, let's move forward because as we were talking, I was asking questions and you're saying different points. We got hung up on semantics a little bit because I don't use probably the proper language for certification, et cetera. You're a lot more knowledgeable in that, obviously. And I thank you for sticking with me and going down some of those rabbit holes. But let's talk about a sustainability program, right? Because you say project, and I'm trying to argue or talk about a certain. So let's talk about that. What define this for me, right? There are components to it. I understand. What's a sustainable program? If I'm a company, I'm looking at this. What am I looking at?
Well, so how about if we talk about what we recommend a company look for in a sustaticity program?
Yeah, absolutely. You're the one who's going to go out there and certify it and say, "Hey, look, this is ISO 14000. This is fantastic." So yeah, you're the expert. What do you guys recommend?
So whether they choose us or not, we recommend that every company that starts thinking about sustainability. I mean, if they heard us talking a few minutes ago and they heard, oh my gosh, we can make more money and we can win bids and well, we didn't even hit on a bunch of other topics, but
yeah,
the point is, hey, this sounds like it might be something we should check into. And then they look at each other and they say, yeah, but what kind of a program should we consider? Oh, I don't know. So here's the 8 things that a company should look for in a program. And if it gets a program with these 8 things, it will be happy. All right? Okay. So, first and foremost, we touched on before employee performance and health. You want a sustainability program that includes employee performance and health in it. Don't just look at a program that's looking at LEDs and solar panels. Your employees are your biggest cost, your biggest opportunity, your biggest risk. Takes a lot of savings on an LED system to make up for one workplace violence event. Make sure that your sustainability program has an employee health and wellness component to it and addresses employee performance and health. Next.
So, but wait a
Go
minute, wait a
ahead.
minute. So okay. So immediately it sounds like we're bringing back ESG type of stuff, right? But you're when you dig into this, I'm hearing from you, and my mind starts thinking they're like, as you said, they're your biggest assets, right? They're some of your best assets. So this is from a sustainability as far as profitability and efficiency mode, right?
Absolutely. This is not ESG. As
Yeah.
you know, G is governance, it's documentation,
Right.
S is social,
Right.
but it is truly the management of the employees from a protection of rights standpoint. I'm simplifying,
Correct.
but
Correct.
what I'm talking about is the fact that every company in the world deals with the big five: insomnia, stress, anxiety, physical pain, and mental acuity. Those five
Mm.
knock 5% of your GDP off every year. Assume in the United States, assume $10,000 per full-time employee every year. So
Gotcha.
your staff, if you got 10 people in your staff, you're losing $100,000 a year to the fact that they didn't get enough sleep last night. They got in a fight with their spouse. They're getting up in years, and they're just not as quick as they used to be. Those five things, the big five, are causing your company to not be as efficient as it could be. So
Got you.
your sustainability program shouldn't just look at energy efficiency, it should look at team efficiency.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you for that. All right, let's move on to the next one. I just wanted to clarify that
Yeah,
because
sure.
you don't, it sounds like
What
you're
is
saying
it?
it's employee rights, DEI, or this kind of thing. That's not
I'm,
what we're
I'm talking about
here at
numbers.
all.
I'm talking
We're
about
talking
bottom
about
line profitability.
the CFO should be listening to this. This is what we're
100%.
talking about.
100%.
Right. Go for it. Okay. What's the next one?
Next, you should certify the business, not the box, not the building that the business is in. There are a number of energy efficiency certifications. They're fantastic certifications, but they certify the building. And you don't want to be a business, i.e., a tenant, and try to make more money by telling your consumer, buy more from me because I office in somebody else's energy efficient building.
Yeah.
You want to be able to say, buy more of my product because I am a certified sustainable business. So you want it to tie to your company, not the box or business or, box or building that your company resides in.
Yeah, and I liken that when I compare that or bring that into the logistics space. I've argued before that, look, sitting around waiting for Daimler or whomever, Volvo, to come out with a green truck, Class 8 truck, is not a sustainability plan. that's not it.
No, it can be part of your plan.
Yeah,
it can be a component of your plan.
Right.
Your company has a bunch of projects as part of its sustainability effort. And that could be a very powerful one, but it's a subcomponent of an overall plan.
Right. Yeah, I get it. No, that makes perfect sense. Let's move on.
The next one,
3, I think, if I'm counting correctly.
number 3, you should have, as we've hit on this one already, third-party audit. You should not buy a certification from a company that doesn't use a third-party auditing component, and you should not self-certify. The governments, the activists, the courts, you don't want to face any of that. Make sure that whatever program you have has a third-party certification audit process.
Are those we don't need to name any names, but are those in existence? Are they out there? People
Well,
that sell certification and they're not using a third party like you do through the ISO and types of stuff?
I would say that if you look at the 97% of big companies that I mentioned before
Yeah,
that have sustainability programs,
yeah.
I would say less than 5% are tied to a standard and are tied and that have third party validation. They are almost
That little.
all they're almost all internally driven. They went out and they hired some people. The people came in. They built some programs. Hey, I'm not saying they're not good programs, but as the world as Canada and the EU, and as they start putting these requirements up, those self-certified programs will not stand. You heard about, I mean, you
Yeah,
know about green hushing. All the
sure.
companies are quieting down. Why? Because they recognize that they're exposed.
They're exposed. Yes, exactly. They don't want to get greenwashed. And
They
that's what I was talking
they
about.
they
There's
have
been
they have
headlines where
self
like this company gets rid of these goals and that goals and stuff like that. When you read through it, it's really that they're just not announcing them anymore, which is really a good thing. I think that a lot of those companies are continuing. They're just not putting them out there for the stakeholder, shareholder, and the
well
public to see them
they're
because they don't want
struggling.
to be
They're
held.
struggling with the
Yeah,
fact that they built a program custom to themselves. It might be
yeah,
a fantastic program,
yeah.
but until they align themselves with a global standard and have some third party validate that they're meeting that standard, they're at risk.
Mm, mm,
That
mm,
brings us
mm.
to the next point.
Yeah, let's go.
Attach yourself to a respected global standard. Don't spend the money, don't spend the time uh, aligning yourself with a local program. You're going to outgrow it. You're going to you're going to sell to a client somewhere, and the client's not going to accept it. Go with a global standard that everybody recognizes and respects.
Mm. And how does one determine that?
Well,
I
there's
mean, I can ask you, and you can do that. But give me what? How do you determine what is a respected global standard?
you can Google it. I mean,
Yeah,
there's half a dozen
yeah,
that are really solid and they're global and everybody would say yeah that they meet the test. The world's looking at them all the time. They're constantly being upgraded. They're in all the countries. They as things change throughout the world, those standards are constantly upgraded to allow for those. They're
Mm.
respected.
So, you know, if I'm doing business in specific parts of the world, I just need to make sure that those countries they align with those whatever standard I'm looking at, right? And make sure that that's all right.
Yeah,
Cool.
we're in 170 countries. So
Yeah,
I mean, you're if you pick a global standard that's respected, if you get a third party validation as part of it, yeah, you're good to go. You're
good,
good to go.
good. Cool, cool, cool. All right, I think
Next,
we're on to number 5.
next, find a program that helps you promote the certification. If you spend all the time and the money to get certified, and now you're certified, and they've washed their hands and they're off to something else, and now you're sitting around thinking, okay, well, we want to promote this, but we don't know that much about this.
Yeah.
We need some help writing our narratives. We need some help communicating with our employees. We need some help communicating with all of our stakeholders. You want a vendor that not only helps you get certified, but also helps you promote that certification, not just for the revenue upside, but also to keep you within the guardrails and protect you in terms of overstepping or overstating. You want somebody that's there with you all along going
So you're
forward.
sure. So okay. So I got it. So like your communications department is going to work in tandem with the certification company. or advisors like yourself, like Edenark, to make sure that you're not making false statements. You're making
Yeah,
the
like
right claims.
give you an example. As you know, Earth Day is in a couple of weeks, April
Hmm.
22nd, and we send a note out to all of our clients saying, "Hey, Earth Day is coming up. You are a certified sustainable business. You need to talk about it. You need to put together something." And
Mm.
almost in every case, they come back and they say, "Yeah, you're right. We'd love to help. We need some
Yeah.
help
What are
right
we?
here."
What can we
Yeah,
say? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
David, you guys are in the business. We're not. Help us with this. So
Yeah.
our job is not to help. It is not just to help them get certified, but to help them talk about it in a fashion with all of their stakeholders. I mean, talk to your employees. Talk to the
Well, you
sales
should.
team.
The first thing you should do is tell them, listen, you got to sponsor and put your name out there on the Sustaining Eggs.
Actually,
There you
so
go.
I mean, they need
I've got a
help
solution for you, brother.
effectively communicating that to the world,
They
and
do.
find a program that will stick around and help you with that.
Yep. Unbelievable.
Next,
That is awesome. Yeah, let's go.
continual improvement. You want a program that
What? You mean I can't just do this once and sit back
well,
and not worry about it anymore?
that's annual. That's
Oh,
annual
okay.
update. But continual improvement is accepting a company wherever they are in their sustainability journey and helping them get better. I mean, we have companies that start with us and they're pretty far along and they get better. We have other
Yeah.
companies, they don't this is all brand new to them. They're starting with nothing. So you want to be able to start wherever you are and progressively improve. And next year get a little better, and next year get a little better, and next year get a little better.
Yeah.
You don't want to have a bar that you have to hurdle year one that is so high that it frustrates the team and you quit. So you
And
want to
that's been
progressively
what a
improve.
lot of these headlines have been, right? There's people set these bars, say, "Hey, we're going to reach this by 2025 or 2026," and they didn't realize just how difficult that was going to be.
That's
And
right. And then
they're
everybody gets
rolling
pissed
back some
off
of
and they
those
throw it out.
claims.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, you were only 50% successful, therefore you're a failure. No, that's not the case. Uh, it was just stated wrong, so it looks that way, right? Gotcha. Cool.
Next, it has to have annual updates. Sustainability is not fixed. It's not finite. Every
Mm.
year you got to progressively improve. Every year you got to do a little bit more, a little bit more. So every year somebody needs to come back in and work with you on the projects that you're doing to get a little better, a little better, a little better.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like everything else in the business. If you're not continually training and bringing in third parties to upgrade
Yeah.
every one of your departments,
Every
from
part of your business you're doing that with.
CEO coaching, et cetera, all the way down to training people on the wrenches and so on and so forth, you've got to have it. Yeah.
Yep.
Makes perfect sense. Love
And
it.
then the final thing, I left it for last, but it
All right.
must be at a price you can afford and must deliver a positive ROI.
That's a
And
beautiful. I'm so glad
I
that's the
mean,
last, because
it,
that's what I was going to ask you. Okay, let's
but
get to the CFO
you,
question.
you want a program that has all the things that I just said, and at a price you can afford, and will give you a positive ROI. And if it delivers those things, and it delivers a positive ROI, why wouldn't you do it? Because of all the benefits that you have with the marketplace.
Well, I mean, regardless of all the benefits of the marketplace, if you can bring in this program that's going to increase my either my OR, my bottom line, there
Yeah,
it is. Because top line, great, that's fantastic. Obviously, you want more market share, but it has to contribute to contribution to profit is the key.
yeah,
Yield management, and if it improves that,
that's right.
it's a no-brainer, unless it's illegal. And obviously, this is not illegal. Hence, all the benefits to the marketplace and international trade, all that kind of stuff. Fantastic, dude. There's one thing that I do want to ask you, and maybe you answer it, maybe you don't. Do you think, and I don't want to get political at all, but there's tariffs out there. other trade barriers was mentioned as an issue, right? Is this considered that? Do you see that as a worry, or is this not considered? Would be considered in that?
Say it again. When you
Oh,
mean
okay.
do I see
When
the trade
when
the
Trump
trade
came out,
barriers?
when Trump came out, he's talking about the tariffs, right? He said,
Hmm.
okay, look,
Hmm.
these are tariffs, and everybody immediately you look there, you go to calculus, you go, wait, that's not the tariff from this company or that company, and he says, no, these aren't straight up just tariffs, right? He said there are other trade barriers. Our sustainability or carbon neutral tax, that type of stuff from the EU, would they be considered in a trade barrier? Do you think?
Absolutely. So if you're right now, if you're a company in the United States,
Yeah.
and you want to do business with a company in California, also in the United States, you are
Mm.
going to have a trade barrier because of SB 261. Because California is going to say, if you're doing business here, you're going to have to meet our environmental standards. Canada has, as I said before, C59. EU has all of their programs. So just like in anything else, there are going to be requirements that governments, be it federal, be it state, be it city, whatever, are going to put up and say, for you to work here, you got to meet this certain requirement.
Unbelievable.
In every if in every industry,
No,
if I want to,
it makes sense. I thought it would be, and you're the expert. You deal internationally, so I wanted to ask that question because you've been gracious in telling us, walking us all through the entire program. And there's a lot more. There are a million questions, right? And I try and think of all of those questions. But so, what is the um, what is the success rate of companies that do this, right? In other words, companies that are sustainable, do they produce more ROI? I mean, is it common to just, hey, they're much more efficient? Because it sounds like you're really attacking this from what I call business 101, like sustainability is just operating correctly.
so first of all, I should say I should qualify some of my statements. None of the numbers, none of the like the 20x and all, none of that is our data. Every one of these studies are they're studies by the Nielsen's, Forbes, MIT, Boston Consulting Group, Unilever. I mean,
Yeah, no,
not
I
not
recognize a lot of
yeah,
those.
yeah,
There's a
not
few in
not
there
little
from.
bitty
There's a
us.
few. Yeah, there's a few in there from Statistica. There's a few in there from McKinsey. There's a number of them there. Yeah, no, I
Yeah. So
recognize
so
most of those numbers.
so
Yeah.
with that having been said, um, so let me pull up one right here that I have in front of me. There's a group called BAR, that did a big study a number of years ago about and compared sustainability and sustainable companies and non-sustainable companies against each other, and it showed a 24% net income, 11% EBITDA increase for the sustainable companies. Unilever did a better study because Unilever did it within their own brands. They had some brands within their organization that were sustainable, some brands that were not sustainable, and they showed a 30% increase from the sustainable brands. Stern University in New York does a research study every year, and the last one that I saw shows 7.1x for the sustainable companies versus their non-sustainable competitors.
Mm,
And I could go on. I mean, point
yeah.
is, to answer your question, do they make more money? Yes. Are they more profitable? Yes. Do they have higher valuations? Yes.
It's all, yeah, and every study that I've seen shows that to be the truth. I just can't drive that point home more that too much with the audience, just because there is that perception out there that it is a time suck and it is a profit suck, and
Well,
that
well,
is so far from the truth.
well. Let me maybe address it this way.
Yeah,
As I mentioned, we were going through the key things of a program.
yeah,
That one of those key things is an annual review, annual
right,
update.
right,
In our case, every year,
yeah,
every client has to make a decision. Do they write us another check and do more work to retain or actually get a renewal, a new badge for the new year? Do
yeah,
they update their sustainability certification for the next year? And it's going to cost them. It's going to cost them money and time. As
hmm.
of today, every client that we've ever certified has renewed every year. So back to your question about,
You've only been around 28 years, so
well,
that's
no,
not
no, no.
much.
We haven't had the program for 28
Oh,
years. We had the
oh,
program for about 8. But
well,
but the
eight's still impressive.
but the point is, you would think, and the day is going to come. The day will come when we have a company not renew. But the
Sure.
point is, these companies every year are having to make a decision. And as much as they want to help the environment, they also, if it was costing them money, if it was painful, if it wasn't something that was working, they would not renew. Maybe they'd go to somebody else, but they wouldn't renew. But the point is, that should suggest that this works.
Yeah, I think we've all been. If you've been in business any length of time, you've been involved with consultants coming in, and it was a waste of time, and it was a time suck, and it was a cost suck, and all that kind of stuff. This is not it. Is what you're telling me.
If
The
it's
proof.
if
The
it's
proof is
again,
in.
back to the things you should look for in a program. If you go out and get Joe's sustainability program, do you have a chance of not being happy? A big chance. If you follow
No
those
offense.
eight,
No offense, Joe.
no offense, but if you follow those 8 things that I suggested, and you find a program that has those 8 things, odds are you're going to be very, very happy. And when the next year comes around, you're going to be happy to renew because it added value.
All right, so we've blown through 62 minutes so far.
We have.
It goes by so fast, my friend. We may have to do some additional shows, but let's wrap this up with, look. You said SMEs, all right, right? Who's calling you? Is this a single proprietor? Can they get in on this, or is this just there's no way it's going to bankrupt them or that type of stuff? Or who's calling? Because you said you have $1 billion companies, et cetera, and there's probably a whole bunch of people choking, going, "Yeah, $1 billion. If I did that over the lifetime of my business, it would be amazing."
So I have many pre-revenue clients,
Oh wow,
and I have many, 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 many one-person companies. And then, of course, we have the what would be called a micro business, under $5 million.
yeah,
So we have a whole bunch of very small organizations, and then we have the traditional SME in the $100 million range, and then we have the bigger ones. But your question specifically was, can really, really small companies do this? 100%. We have them. They're doing it. They're renewing. They're happy.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And where are they going? Who's coming out to reach you? Where are they reaching you out at, man? Besides David Goodman on LinkedIn.
So the company is Edenark.com, Edenark. And if they go to Edenark.com, and there's a little tab where you hit to talk to us, and just put your name and say call me or whatever, happy to chat.
Absolutely beautiful. I appreciate it, my friend. Go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers. And hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in, downloading, and listening in on the Sustainiacs. I'm Mike Vincent. He's David Goodman. Check him out. Edenark is where you need to go. Or who is it? David Goodman 1, right? On LinkedIn. You
I'm
can
not
check him
even
out.
sure. I haven't looked at my profile to know what
Yeah.
but if you just put David Goodman and Edenark, you'll find me.
Yeah, David E. Goodman. Yeah, or David E. Goodman one in there as well is how I grade. But anyways, doesn't matter. Thank you guys for listening, and everybody. Hey, peace and love until next time.